is Russ. Yeah, I'm back in the car again. What time is it? 5:07 p.m. Yep, another late run. 37 degrees outside. Yeah, it snowed today too. How do you like that? And we're expected to get a little bit more snow in the coming days. But nothing's stuck. Let's just hope it stays that way. Yeah, but the fact that we had snow, I mean, come on. Just a couple days ago, we were at 70 degrees. What happened? What happened? Now, you might be wondering if I had a chance to go out and ride my bike. No, didn't get a chance to do that. I wasn't around to do it, so I couldn't go. Yep. So anyway, another review bike came in. I haven't even had a chance to even build it yet. It's sitting in the garage. It's just sitting there now. But I will build it soon. Yeah. So here's the thing I wanted to talk about today. Pedal stroke. Pedal stroke and e-bike styles. Types of e-bikes. Yeah. Now you might know that I prefer a full leg extension when I do a pedal stroke. And by full leg extension, I'm not talking totally locked out, okay, on the knee. I'm talking about the proper pedal stroke leg extension that maybe a non-e-bike rider might do. Yeah. And by non-e-bike rider, I'm talking about somebody who rides a lot. Yeah. I prefer that. Yeah, I don't actually prefer to have my knees all scrunched up and put my feet down on the ground while stopped and still sitting on the saddle. And I do call it a saddle. Some people have said to me, that's a seat. Well, in biking terms, it's a saddle, okay? You have to remember, too, I come from having ridden a bike all my life. I've always had some type of bike. There's just too many cars. I'm not going to move. I've had a bike all my life until the point where I couldn't ride anymore because of my bad knee. But other than that, I'm pretty familiar with bikes in general and maintaining your bike and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I prefer a full leg extension, a proper riding extension. It's just like nonstop cars. What's the deal? I guess around this time of the day, everybody's out on the road. So now, does that mean I will not ride or show you how the bike looks like when your feet are down on the ground? No. In fact, I have a review bike that's coming that they would like us to show you both ways of riding the bike. Let's say it that way. For those who like to keep their feet on the ground, they want us to show that. And they also want us to show the way I would ride my bike. Okay? Now there is some merit to this. Let me say that. Just because I prefer to have a fuller leg extension doesn't mean you prefer to do that. And so you might not be able to relate to the bike as much because you might say, well, that thing's way up there. I can't do that. Well, nothing says you can't lower the seat post height, okay? So I'm going to show you both when I do that particular review, all right? Yeah, I'm going to show it to you both ways. So let's talk about why somebody would want to do it with a full leg extension and why somebody might not, okay? Well, obvious reasons is if you don't do a full leg extension, if you're still sitting on the saddle when you're stopped and your feet are on the ground, there is some stability there, okay? You don't feel like you're going to topple over because you're still sitting on the saddle. That is a benefit, okay? What is the benefit of a full leg extension? Full meaning, let me define the full, okay? There's a slight bend still to your knee, but it's extended out as you can without being totally locked out. How's that? Is that a good explanation of it? What's the benefit of that? Well, you actually put less pressure on your knees when you do that. Yeah, you actually have more pressure on your knees when your knees are kind of scrunched up and you're pedaling and your knees are all scrunched together. I don't prefer that, and especially for someone who has bad knees, you don't want to do it. Yeah. I've always had a full extension at the cost of the possibility of falling off the bike when you're stopped, right? But I've gotten used to the fact that if I'm stopped, I hop off the saddle, I hop off the bike, and then I stand up between the bike. Now here's another thing that you got to remember too. If you have a step-through bike, and let's say you've been always one that had a step-over bike. Like for me, every bike I ever had was a step-over bike until I started doing e-bikes. Yeah. The thing is, there's no top bar on a step-through bike that's going to hold your bike up if you stop and just get off of the saddle and just stop and expect that the bike is going to stand vertical because the top bar is between your leg. That's not going to happen, okay? If you let go of the handlebars, that bike is going to topple over, all right? So make sure you're still holding onto the bike when you get off of the saddle on a step-through bike. If you're hopping off the bike. If you're still seated, it doesn't really matter. You're still seated on it, right? So, so pros and cons. So the cons of, I've already kind of mentioned it, of keeping your legs on the ground when you're stopped. It means that typically when you're pedaling, your feet are, your knees are more scrunched together. There's more scrunched up. So you can't get a full, proper extension of stroke power. Now you might be thinking, well, I got an e-bike. Why do I need that kind of power? That's true. You could basically say, well, you know, the e-bike's helping me along. I don't need to do that. That's true. But if you want to get, you know, a little bit more exercise out of it, if you want to get the more natural feel of what a standard bike would be doing that's not an electric, yeah, you want a better extension. Drawback of full leg extension, of course, is you have to hop off the bike. Yeah, you can't just stop and stay seated. Now, having said that, some people are able to kind of stay, how should I put this? They can balance, right? They can slow down really slow to the point of almost stopping and balance. I've tried that a couple of times. I don't feel comfortable with that. I feel less comfortable doing that than hopping off the bike, all right? I'd rather hop off the bike, start fresh again every time we start. But there is an extra effort, you know, to do that. But yeah, I can't do that. I don't enjoy doing that. So I don't do it like that. Yeah. So what about types of bikes? Okay. Now you might notice that I don't usually take let's call it e-moto. Is that the best way to call it? Moped style bikes. Okay. Most of my bikes look like bikes. Yeah, it's just my preference. It's just the way I prefer to do it, and you know, I want to be able to pedal, even though you might say, well, Russ, you never pedal. Well, I do. You just never see it. Okay, the times that I usually am pedaling is usually when I'm not recording myself making a video, but I do pedal. Yeah, and I prefer a regular standard bike to be able to do that. The other bikes, the saddles are so, they're not usually adjustable. Many of them are just like one big flat plane. And it's good for those who like to keep their feet on the ground. Yeah, I'll say that. Not so good for guys who like to actually use the bike as a pedaling thing. Doesn't work out as well for that. So you chances are you'll probably never see me review that. I only reviewed one way back early in the days when I first started reviewing the e-bikes. I had one bike that came in, and I didn't realize, you know, it would be like that. Of course, ever since that point, I never took another bike on like that again, because I said that doesn't really fit the way I ride. Although it was a fine bike, it was perfectly fine. It's just that it wasn't my style, right? So you'll never see that style of bike being reviewed on my channel, because I personally won't be riding anything like that. I just don't. So even if companies I've worked with before come out with something like that, I don't think you'll see me actually taking it on. I've told companies that I've worked with before no on certain models of bikes that they would like me to review. All right. I mean, some reviewers would say, well, that's like, if you tell them no, then they may never give you anything ever again. Well, hey, but I tell them why, okay? I tell them this is why I don't do it. It's not that I won't review any of their other bikes. It's just that it's not me. So I won't do it. And I haven't had a problem with the companies that I've turned down on that. I mean, there are companies, for instance, that I've turned down. I've turned down over 170 now. 170 e-bike companies where they've asked me to consider taking one of their bikes for review, and I've just either not responded to them or outright told them no. You can't take everything. I've said this many times, and you've got to be selective on which particular bikes you can get behind. And some of the bikes I can't get behind that. I just can't. Either the style is not the style that I prefer, or it's something about the bike that I don't like. You know, if it's like maybe I don't trust their batteries or whatever technology they have. I don't trust it, or I'm not sure what it is, in which case then I won't do the review on that. I only review bikes that I think have some type of merit. I've said this many times. So usually if you see a bike coming through from me, it's because I thought it was worth doing. And that's why the reviews are usually pretty positive from me. I don't do negative reviews on that kind of product, because I usually don't take the negative stuff that I could kind of tell. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's not mine. It might be fine. It might be a good bike, but it's not something I would ride. And if it's not something I would ride, I can't give it a good review, because I wouldn't enjoy it as I'm doing the review. So it's as easy as that. Now, some of the bikes that have been offered to me, over time, I would say the newer bikes that have come in might actually offer more than the bikes did back then. Does that make sense? Yeah, I mean, the companies tend to improve their products over time, right? They do. And sometimes you get even better value now that you didn't get then. That's always amazed me, you know. I mean, I remember when I first got my first e-bike, it was a Rad Rover 5. I said, it'd be nice if we had the hydraulic brakes on here. And then eventually all the bikes came with hydraulic brakes nowadays, right? I mean, you do have some with mechanical brakes, but those are usually less expensive bikes. But back then, that bike wasn't cheap, okay? And it still didn't have hydraulic brakes, because back then it wasn't something that people were giving for that price range. Today they do. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's offered to you today that was not offered to you back then. Yeah, you're getting a lot more for the money today, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you're getting cadence and torque sensor modes. Come on, that wasn't even an option back then, okay? You're getting hydraulic brakes now. You're getting bigger batteries now that go in there. You're getting UL approval on some, well, not all of the bikes, but on some of the bikes, right? I think we're at the point now that most people know that you need some type of certification thing going on the batteries and things like that, right? Oh, got really bright all of a sudden. Let me pull that thing down. So, I mean, to get that on a bike back in those days, it would cost you more money, because it costs them money to go through the certification. It takes time, too. I know this because I worked for a company many years ago in the hi-fi industry, actually, that we had to get UL certification on the equipment. And so in order for that to happen, it takes time and a lot of money. Yeah, but that's important, because if you don't get that certification, then how do you know if it's safe? So, all right, anyways, that's all I got for you guys for today. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I'll talk to you guys next time. Let me know, too, about what you think is the way you ride. You know, do you do a full leg extension? Do you do one that's not a full leg extension? You prefer to keep your feet on the ground? Let me know. Do you ride the bikes that are a little more difficult for a full leg extension? Let me know. All right, talk to you guys next time.